from the X to the right wing. Hopefully the wind doesn't blow my notes away here.
Good thing is it's not very strong today, which is nice.
Yeah.
Especially compared to what it's been.
Yeah, no kidding.
Recently.
Purdue in action. Second shot is on the way, on goal, and that's going to be a big save once again as IU trailing this one 1-0. Great to have you with us here. Beautiful afternoon in Bloomington. Troy and Cruz with you, and big matchup between these two teams, Cruz, and we've got a timeout, or we're going to switch. Looks like we may just have a switch of players here, but early on, your thoughts on the pace of this game and what you're seeing so far from both these teams.
Well, Indiana's played extremely conservative in terms of the tempo that they played with. Purdue, not so much. You just saw that shot a couple of moments ago. There's been a couple of times where Purdue has had an opportunity to put a shot on goal, and they've been rifling their shots towards there in quick fashion as well. So Purdue been a lot more aggressive, Indiana a lot more conservative. Interesting to see these clashing of styles so far.
One thing about it, what you've noticed so far in this one is, again, this is always a rivalry. No matter, and you go to IU, so you kind of know what this is all about, and so do fans. It's just a rivalry not matched by anything.
Yeah, exactly. And so, both of these teams are going to be bringing their A game, especially, like you said, when you're taking on your in-state rival in the Purdue Boilermakers or the Indiana Hoosiers, whichever side you may fall on. And, just a terrific day, first of all, for lacrosse in general. The temperature's not too bad, the wind's not too bad, and look at that backdrop behind you as well. It doesn't get much better than that.
From the X, that is a errant pass that will go all the way past the midline, and that'll be another turnover here for Indiana right now. And officially we have IU for 6 turnovers. And guess what? An open netter that time, and the score. And so Purdue with an early lead. A 2-0 lead in this one as Andrew Davison unofficially picking up the goal. That is going to be his 6th of the season, and so Purdue leads it 2-0.
And you just saw what we were just talking about, that really quick tempo by Purdue getting back to the other side of the field. Really quick shot. Now Davison sole possession of second place on the team in goals on the season now with his 7th of the year. That's how quickly this Purdue team could take you the other direction. Indiana was not ready for it defensively.
Coming into this one here today in the Eastern Division, Purdue at 3-6, trying to pick up a road win here today. They're 0-2 in the division. For IU, they are 6-4 on the season. And Cruz, this is an important day for them simply because it's the last home game they're going to have this year. As you see the officials stopping play, only 2 officials working this one here this afternoon. So really with the big crowd here, they want to get a win.
Yeah, exactly. You want to go out on the right foot at home, and especially for the upperclassmen, the seniors on this team. And we had the privilege of talking to Connell Barton, the Denver native, who's a senior captain on this Indiana lacrosse team. And you want to send out your seniors the right way, especially when you're at home against your arch rival and in-state rival at that. Just a lot to play for today for both of these teams, but especially for Indiana.
Well, that shot a little bit wide there as Purdue on the attack once again as Logan Smith. Let's talk about these 2 keepers we have here today, and we've got 2 really good ones. And, of course, we think about Jack Jordan. Certainly has had a excellent season. He can play in the field. He can also play as the keeper. And you also look at other players on this roster, and I know that Cruz is going to talk about a lot of these young people, but you also look at Patrick Kenny, who is in goal today. Patrick, a 62.3 save percentage coming into this one here today.
And he's already seen a lot of action as well. One of the first shots that you saw today was a nice save by him. Again, Purdue came back fast the other direction. He was able to react to it. He's had his work cut out for him, especially here in the early going.
By the way, each team now with 6 turnovers here in the opening period of play. We'll have a line change as well as IU trying to come back from a 2-0 deficit here in the first period. And in college lacrosse, again, you have a shot clock, so it isn't like what we have done in high school where you can really milk a lot of the clock. In other words, you got to get moving pretty quick.
Yeah, no question about it. Both of these teams, though, have obviously been in the situation where they've had the shot clock all season long and for their entire careers up to this point at the collegiate level. So they're used to it, but you people at home might not be. So it'd just be something to keep an eye on. Definitely changes the style of play for both of these teams, though, having that implemented.
That will go back over to Purdue. Let's talk a little bit about Brent Balick, young man who is well known here in Bloomington. He is the all-time leading scorer here for this IU men's lacrosse team, and he has come back after, of course, his very successful career at Carmel, but looks like he's building a good program here.
Yeah, in his second season here in Bloomington. Before that, he was the offensive coordinator at Carmel High School for the varsity team for the last 6 seasons under the late head coach and Jack Meacham. Graduated from IU back in 2016. He played in the attack and currently holds the all-time scoring record here at Indiana University for club lacrosse. So not a bad man to have at the helm for IU club lacrosse.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That'll be a turnover. We'll head back the other way. And by the way, keys to this one here today. Let's talk a little bit about that. Coach Balick had mentioned the one thing they've got to do is win the possession battle. So far that has not exactly happened, as they have an opportunity here in the attacking third, but a lot of contact right there as the ball squirts loose, and it looks like we're going to have a penalty against Purdue. So again, early on they haven't won that possession battle.
Yeah, and that's a toughness thing. That's what it comes down to, is toughness. You don't want to get out-toughed by your opponent. That's one really good statistic to look at. And so far Purdue's had their way. So if Indiana wants to have a shot in this game, they're going to have to toughen up, and they're going to have to be able to win that possession battle. Again, just comes down to toughness, and you do not want to get out-toughed, especially by your in-state rival.
Yeah, one other thing he talked about was getting ground ball. Certainly the ground ball is going to be huge again today. And the other one that we talk a lot about, I know he talked about face-offs, and so far it's been pretty even early in this one. But the one thing, you just can't turn the ball over a lot, and we've seen that by both teams.
Yeah, well, we were talking about that before the game. You want to maximize every opportunity that you have offensively, and if you're coughing up the ball, you're giving up free opportunities that you have to potentially put pressure on the defense and to potentially score and either cut down on a lead or extend the lead. So, the more opportunities that you cough up, the worse off that you're going to be. But the flip side of that is the more opportunities that you give yourself and don't turn the ball over, the better off you'll be.
Boy, and IU man up right there because of the penalty against Purdue. And unfortunately for Purdue, they can't capitalize on that turnover by Indiana. Beautiful day here in Bloomington. Again, the final home game for the Hoosiers, trying to win their 7th of the season. We're going to talk about some of these individual players for Indiana this year. We had a chance to meet young man Connell Barton from Denver. Of course, he is listed as the vocal leader on the team, and we will end period number 1, I do believe, and we'll take a timeout here on IndianaSRN.
From warehousing to transportation and everything in between, Piper Logistics does it all. Centrally located, Piper Logistics has 2 warehouses in Indianapolis and a warehouse in Cincinnati, Ohio. Piper Logistics houses over 1 million square feet. Along with our transportation department, we can provide service to half the United States markets.
We encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, IndianaSRN. Hit the bell to get notifications for upcoming games and more. Watch as many games as you want, as many times as you want.
Back here once again in Bloomington. Beautiful day here today for men's lacrosse, part of the Upper Midwest Lacrosse Conference. It exists in the Eastern Division. Miami, Ohio, which is 6-0 on the season. IU 6-4. Western Michigan 6-4. Michigan State is 5-6, and Purdue at 3-6. Ian Wolfe is their head coach. They've lost 3 out of their last 4 in their last contest, lost to Michigan State by a final of 11-10. In the Western Division, you have Minnesota at 8-3, Iowa State is 3-6, Illinois 2-7, Nebraska is 0-7 on the season. Let's talk a little more about some of the personnel here for IU. We've had a chance to meet Mr. Barton a little bit ago from Denver, Colorado, and he's the vocal leader. And Big fella, too, by the way. You'd love to have him on defense.
Yeah, no question about it. And, we talked earlier about this being the final home game for Indiana lacrosse this season. And it's guys like that who you want to play for. Those seniors who have been here for 4 years or however long they've been with the program. You could tell just by his presence that he's a leader.
Yeah.
You can tell the way that he addresses people, the way that he treated us when he came over. And just an all-around great kid, and also doing great things on the lacrosse field, obviously, too. So great young man, and I'm sure there's plenty more players like that on this IU lacrosse team as well.
They want to talk a little bit about Patrick Kenny as well from Long Island, New York. His save percentage is at 62%. Now, he's given up a couple of goals here in the first half, but bottom line is, in order for them to succeed, he's got to be really good.
Yeah, and he's had a couple of good saves already so far today, a couple of quick reactions here and there. Now, Purdue has done such a good job at flipping the field and doing it in a quick fashion, and so they're catching Indiana's defense off guard, but the times that Indiana has been ready for it, whenever the tempo slows down, their defense has looked very impressive, but they have to keep controlling the tempo if they want to have that continue.
By the way, also, we'll talk a little bit about defenseman number 16, Zach Stouffer from Atlanta, leader in ground balls, 31 ground balls this season, as we're ready to go once again here in period number 2, 15-minute quarters in men's college lacrosse. And again, there is a shot clock as the crowd continues to funnel their way in here to this beautiful facility that we're getting an opportunity to broadcast from here today. Is IU in the attacking third. They'll work it at the X. Nice pass to the inside, the quick flip of the wrist, and just out of the reach, Trey Carter, just a little bit off the mark there.
And Trey Carter, one of the integral pieces to this Indiana offense, third on the team so far this year in goals and assists at 10 and 5 respectively. Had a good opportunity there, but couldn't cash in.
Yeah, that one was a long-range bullet. Good save there for the Boilermakers. I want to mention, of course, in goal today for Purdue, and this is going to be a big key. He's gotten off to a great start so far for the Boilermakers as well. And, boy, I tell you what, both these teams impressive early, especially on defense, but we have seen a number of turnovers so far here in the first half of play, each team with 7, but Michael Giannetta coming in with a save percentage at 65.7. So we talk a little bit about these two keepers and how big it is for him today, too.
And he hasn't had a whole lot to worry about in terms of Indiana's attack. They haven't gotten off as many shots so far as Purdue has. With Purdue and their offense, the way that they've played so far today. But, he's been impressive nonetheless, and if both of these teams can cut back on their turnovers, I think we might see that goalie success maybe trickle down a little bit.
No doubt about that as the Boilermakers work it just outside the right wing, and a turnover once again for Purdue. We have them for 8 already. Fisher, by the way, got the first goal of the day, and then Davison followed up with a goal as well. Indiana so far shut out here in the first half of play. Grant Gilbert will work it now right side. Good look there at Trey Carter. Carter coming into this one with 10 goals and 5 assists, 15 points so far this year for the Hoosiers. We see a lot of teams at the high school level chance to play at different paces, and one thing we've seen IU so far, everything's been kind of settled right here. They get it into the offensive third and trying to work it from there. But bottom line is, so far, not enough shots on goal at this stage.
Yeah, no question about it. And it'll be interesting to see, especially as the game goes on, and how the score differential progresses if Indiana strays away from that potentially, especially as we get down towards the end of the half and maybe even late in the game if this deficit holds up for Indiana. This is a team obviously that likes to play methodical, and there's nothing wrong with that, but sometimes it can play against you if you go up against a really good defense, and sometimes you see teams like that have to switch things up.
Jordan, nice pass to the inside. It's going to be knocked down, and ball right in front of the cage as it squirts loose, and that's almost another turnover for Indiana. Shot clock down to 1, and I think it's going to be a shot clock violation, and it is. And we can't see the shot clock from where we are, but you can hear them counting it down. So now in transition. Nice shot from the wing and the score, and Purdue now leads this one 3-0 It'll be Jared Meltzner on the goal. He wears number 34 for the Boilermakers, and that's what you do right there when you are able to get in transition and move it quickly the other way and you get another goal.
Yeah, that's how Purdue has made most of their goals up to this point in the game. And you mentioned Jared Meltzner. He carries probably the most weight for this Purdue team on the season, leads the team in goals as well as shots and ground balls on the season as well. And so obviously a keystone part of this Purdue offense, and you just saw an example of why.
Well, Purdue's going to win the faceoff. Oh, and look at the collision right there. And I tell you what, this is a very physical game. Here early in this one is Zach Stouffer laying the hurt on the Boilermakers, number 24, which is David Freeze.
Well, and Zach Stouffer, you just mentioned his name. He's the leader in ground balls for this Indiana team on the season. He's a tough kid. Again, another example, prime example of that right in front of our eyes.
Flag is down as Freeze ended up back on the turf once again. Now, one thing you talked about it earlier too, Cruz, is that you want to be a little physical. Of course, you got to be very careful in that situation that you don't end up in a penalty situation, and that's where IU is right now. They're going to be a man down, but one thing about it, you want to be very physical in a game like this, at least to within the rules, of course.
And you want to set a tone also. We've already talked about the implications of this game. The last game for Indiana Club Lacrosse here at home against your in-state rival. And, you want to be able to set a tone. You want to be able to control the tone of the game because, it can be intimidating, especially for a team coming in on the road. And, you don't know what you're getting yourself into until you get out onto the field and you're able to set that tone early. Usually you're able to be in control.
All right, so we've seen the Boilermakers man up, and so now that's away as the penalty has come to an end. So now we're at even strength here at the X. Now for the Boilermakers, leading it 3-0 here in the first half of play. Well, you look at some of the numbers this year for the Hoosiers in the scoring department, and I know you've mentioned it as well with Ryan Sturham at 24 goals, and the Boilermakers are really focusing on him. Make sure he is not going to hurt this this Purdue team here today. He leads the team with 24. You have Trey Carter with 10. Jack Jordan has 11 goals. Jake Campbell has 8 goals and 8 assists, good enough for 16 points. So there's plenty of offense there today. They just got to find a way to get it going now.
Yeah, and it's so off balance, the scoring total is, when you take a look at it, because, you mentioned Stern with those 24 goals. The next closest is Jack Jordan with those 11. So it's an obvious culprit for the Purdue defense to focus their attention on. You take him out of the game. You force guys like Jack Jordan. You force guys like Trey Carter to try to beat you. And, while those guys do have talent, they can't score. I think Purdue's okay with getting beat by them rather than getting beat off a guy who scored 24 goals on the season.
Yeah, no doubt about it, as they'll get into the half in the attacking third. And here on the attack, and the shot a little bit wide to the right. Good look, though, for the Hoosiers once again, as Jack Jordan trying to get his 12th goal of the season for the Hoosiers. We have them for 5 shots now here in the first half. They'll work at the X once again. Boilermakers lead at 3-0 here in Bloomington. Trying to dodge the defender. Long shot and the save once again. One thing about it that the Hoosiers are going to have to try to do, Cruz, is they got to get some more shots about 8 meters in, not 12 meters.
Yeah, exactly. You want to get as close to the net as you can, because the further back that you are, that gives more reaction time for the goalie to be able to slide in front of the ball and try to deflect it away. And there's been a lot of resistance from this Purdue defense. There's no question about it. So, again, it comes down to toughness. Is Indiana tough enough and also disciplined enough to be able to take care of the ball, get themselves in as close as they can, and give themselves quality looks?
And there's another goal from the X, and the Boilermakers off to a great start. They now lead this one 4-0. Looked like that might have been Kate Stogsdill. Let's see if that is number 7 there for the Boilermakers. Nonetheless, a 4-0 lead, and the crowd quieted here today.
Yeah, how about this showing by this Purdue team? Coming in on the road, the last home game for this Indiana lacrosse team this season, they've really sent a message to this Hoosier ball club. I mean, they've controlled the tempo, they've controlled the physicality. I mean, they've done just about everything right up to this point in the game. Indiana's just looking for answers at this point.
Faceoff will be won by the Boilermakers. They have now are leading in that category as well. And once again, back on offense is Purdue. Stogsdill, by the way, picking up his 4th goal of the season. For IU, they opened up with Trey Zung, J.P. Amadin, and Jake Campbell got the start today on the attack. The middies were Ryan Sturm, Jack Jordan, and George Hahn. Of course, we had a chance to talk about Sturm out of Seattle, Washington, Jordan out of Blacklick, Ohio. Then, of course, Connell Barton out of Denver on defense, along with Zach Stouffer and R.C. Baldwin. Baldwin out of Los Gatos, California. Stouffer is out of Atlanta, Georgia. On the mid-side defensively, Grant Gilbert out of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Garrett Whipple out of Evansville. Nick Angeli, as that's going to be a shot wide. In fact, that may not even gotten close to the cage. And Jelly is out of Hohokus, New Jersey, and then Zach Lunsford out of Westfield. That is the 4th shot on the day. And, of course, Patrick Kenny out of Port Washington, New York. And, of course, we know everybody on the East Coast. They know a lot about lacrosse.
And Patrick Kenny just had himself tested twice over there from the Purdue offense. First look was a lot better than the second look was, but Patrick Kenny doing a great job of trying to protect the net down there. And maybe that'll be a little bit of momentum that Indiana can scrape their direction, because they've got to have some kind of spark to get them going.
And Jelly, there's a stick check right there. That stopped that shot. As a defender, you want to get your stick on stick as much as you can, and Purdue did a nice job on that. As Angeli will come out of the lineup, changes both ways, though Purdue able to cover it up quickly with Robert Shank on defense. See if you can get something going here. Here's Jordan, takes the check out front, and now the work at the X once again. 4-0 Purdue. Here on a beautiful Saturday afternoon, the fans, in fact, we were watching all the activities going on around the campus. That's going to be a high shot there, as J.P. Amadin unable to get that one. There's just stuff going on everywhere here today.
Now you were talking about ultimate frisbee being played over on the other field off to our right earlier today. I mean, it's such a nice day in central Indiana, especially with the cold temperatures that we've had recently. It's just kind of nice to have the sun out, the wind down, and no rain. I think everyone's okay with that, too. I know I am.
I thought you were going to leave and go play some frisbee golf a little bit ago. The way you were looking over there, I thought maybe he was gone.
Well, what do we have, a minute between breaks? I can get at least 2 or 3 throws in.
By the way, Michael Janetta, another nice save. IU with 7 shots so far today, and so far have not been able to score. They trail it 4-0, and Purdue feeling pretty good here in the first half. They'll make a change as well, as they will go with a short stick instead of a long stick on this one. Boilermakers could really get a big advantage here in the first half if they can get another goal on board on this one. 9 minutes remaining, or actually 5 minutes remaining. We can barely see the clock across from us, but it is now under 5 minutes remaining in the first half. Well, a lot of contact right next to the goal, and it's going to be a turnover.
And that was Connell Barton who came in there and laid on that hit right there. And Indiana starting to be a little bit more physical, starting to stand their ground a little bit more, but they're going to need a lot more of that if they want to try to make up this 4-goal deficit.
Well, that's a pass that probably shouldn't have been made right there. Turnover for Indiana. That's going to be number 8. I'm sure the IU coaching staff wasn't happy with that execution.
And you got to try to make up some of this ground, I would say, before you go into halftime as well. I mean, that'd be massive. You know, if you're Purdue, you're going in with a 4-0 lead into halftime. You're going to be feeling really good. But if Indiana's able to find a way to at least score one goal, try to tilt that pendulum back in their direction, they're going to have a lot more confidence than if they don't find a way to score here before the half.
Well, there's a little confusion right there because I think that Purdue tried to call a timeout. I heard timeout, but then the officials had blown the play dead, and the penalty went against the Boilermakers, so IU's going to get a break right here.
And you have to try to capitalize on it as well. You got to try to capitalize on that mistake.
Well, Cruz, I think the one thing that Purdue wanted to get that timeout and set something up here for the final. Well, of course, they couldn't run out with the 80 seconds. They couldn't run out the clock, but they were looking to set something up.
Well, they can still run it down to below 2 minutes, so or at least close to 2 minutes. And so it still would have been a massive segment of that game because you take a lot of that time off the clock. You give Indiana just a little bit less time to try to work with. But now you just gave the Hoosiers an opportunity.
And there you go. The score, the first one of the day for Indiana, and Ryan Sturm, who had dodged the defender, made his move to the right, and he scores for Indiana.
He extends that team lead. 4 goals on the season, now is 25th of the year. We were just talking about it. If Indiana could find a way to score going into halftime, just cut into that deficit just a tad. Doesn't matter by how much. Just get that momentum back on your side a little bit. You're going to be sitting in much better position than you would have been if that hadn't happened.
Sturm again out of Seattle, Washington. It's early out there. He's got a 3-hour time difference here. I'm sure he's adjusted to the Midwest or Eastern time zone that we're on right now. But they needed that one right there, and that could have been interesting from a standpoint if Purdue would have got the time or would have gotten the timeout, would have happened there.
Yeah, you're right, Troy. Think about how potentially game-changing that sequence of plays could have been. If Purdue gets that timeout, who knows what happens. They might have found a way to score. We're looking at a 5-0 game instead of a 4-1 game.
That's right. By the way, that last shot by Parker Davenport, long stick midi there for the Boilermakers. They'll keep it. And now they are down to just over 3 minutes remaining in the first half. Well, we've seen too many times, though, in this game or any other sport that you get a goal and the other team immediately comes back and gets one. So you got to find a way to stop and get the momentum.
And Indiana's done that for the most part. I mean, they've been very physical on this defensive possession. You can tell they're playing with a bit of urgency that they didn't have early on in this game. Seems like this Indiana team, at least for the meantime, has woken up.
That was a really over-the-shoulder attempt that time by Ryan Adderley, who was checked in there for the Boilermakers. And they will keep it after the ball goes out of play. So Purdue back on the attack once again. This would be big here for Indiana to make sure they don't give up one more here before we head to halftime, as we're coming up on the 2-minute time period here in the second. That ball was a bounce pass to the inside and taken away. The Boilermakers have turned it over 10 times down the first half. And now we'll settle the other way, and the Hoosiers now a chance in the attacking third. They got plenty of time, want to maybe run this clock down as much as they can, and don't give the Boilermakers another look.
They can run it down to about the 40-second mark, so they can't run it all the way down. But if you get a shot off and you still find a way to get the ball back, then maybe you could. I would try to be aggressive here if you're Indiana.
Oh, my gosh. Rip and score. How about that? Number 51, George Hahn. Number 6 on the year, and we call that a no-doubter.
We were just talking about it. If Indiana was aggressive, they give themselves another opportunity to potentially get the ball back before halftime again. And just that quickly, that's how fast the game can change. We go from Purdue potentially having an opportunity to go up 5-0 to this being now a 4-2 ball game.
That's a grip it and rip it right there, and IU has a player that's a little shaken up. That's going to be Jack Jordan. I'm not sure if he had something up around the shoulder area, but he's going to come out of the lineup here for the Hoosiers as they now make it a 4-2 contest. Well, you'd hate to lose Jordan because he is, again, one of your leaders on offense. He came into this one 11 goals and 14 points, and Indiana's going to need him the rest of the way.
Yeah, no question about it. And, before the game, we were also told that Jake Campbell wouldn't be starting. He leads the team in assists on the year and is second in shots. And so, at least to my knowledge, I don't feel that we've seen him all day long. And so Indiana's already been without his services. And now you lose a guy who's second on the team in goals, third in shots, in Jack Jordan. Thankfully he was able to walk off under his own power, but his status is going to be major for this Indiana team going forward as well.
Now Crone able to bring that ball past midfield, and now the Boilermakers will set it up as the clock continues to wind down here in the first half as Indiana now 2 unanswered goals to make this a 4-2 contest. I think they feel a little more comfortable right now that the offense starting to click.
Oh, no question about it. I mean, getting that first goal was massive. And you saw what happened. It's already started to snowball a little bit. This Indiana team's been able to find another goal since then.
Holy cow, look at that shot. It was pretty much, we had a really good look at that one as Liam Cassidy fired that one deep, but that's great reaction time.
We're a direct line from where the camera is on your screen, and so you guys got the same look we did. We're just a little bit lower. Like you said, Troy, we were in a direct line. There was some heat on that shot. Great save.
Yeah, Patrick Kenny, as the flag is down, but Patrick Kenny, what reaction time on that shot. And he's also, by the way, looking into the sun at that point. That's a low shot as well. It was a bounce in front of Kenny, but the flag is down. And we still have 18 seconds remaining here into the first half of play. And this is going to go against the Hoosiers, and looks like that may be number 30 who's going to be coming out of the lineup there for Indiana because of the penalty. Let's see if he'll go to the box. If it is 30, no, it looks like it's going to be number 66. That's going to be Michael Robinson. 13 ground balls coming in, so they lose Robinson here to the penalty, and so Purdue will be man up with 18 seconds. Still plenty of time here for the Boilermakers. When you see them going to be very deliberate right here. In fact, they may just run this thing out and not even try another attempt here in the first half. So they're going to be just content with the 4 goals that they have scored here in the first half of play. And we have made it to halftime. It is Purdue 4, Indiana 2. We'll come back with more here on IndianaSRN.
Brian Chrisman joins me today. And Brian, talk a little bit about the winter and Wheeler Mission and how important it is for people to help Wheeler Mission, because winter means homeless and homeless means people in the cold. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, we really serve a lot of people year round, no matter what the weather is, right? And so we serve anywhere from 700 to 900 people who are experiencing homelessness every single night. But when winter hits, that can become life or death. So if you're stuck out in the cold, happens every year. IMPD will find people out in the cold and encourage them to come in. But if they don't catch them in time, I mean, again, life and death. And so it's vital that our doors are open. And so we do that. Our staff shows up every day to make sure our doors are open. We serve 1,000 meals a day plus every single day. That's a nice, warm, nutritious meal. Donors provide that. Donors provide our food, coffee, something hot to drink. You know, donors provide that. So there's a lot of opportunities to get involved at Wheeler to make sure we can get through winter, or to work at Wheeler. We need staff, and so we're always looking for staff to get us through the winter time. We spread ourselves thin during winter, making sure that anybody can find space, and so we have bed capacities. For sure, but we go beyond that every winter to make sure that the city has an option for people who are experiencing homelessness in the dead of winter.
Schools out there that are watching this program with our reach, maybe they want to do a sock drive, or they want to do a sweatshirt drive. They can contact our office at IndianaSRN, or they can contact you. Where's a contact, or who would be a contact that maybe we want to do a sock drive? I think that would be a great idea for SRN to start one of those sock drives. How would that? What does that look like?
Yeah, so if you go to wheelermission.org, we have our needs lists that are right there on our website. Those change sometimes in the winter, but there are some some needs that are pretty much continual when it comes to hygiene items, when it comes to warm items to get us through the winter. So when you're talking about coats, especially bigger sizes for people that come through, we want to make sure a lot of people that come to our mission, they come with the clothes on their back, right? And so we need to make sure they have something to wear during their stay with us, and which could be for a few weeks, could be for a couple months. And so go to our website, wheelermission.org. You can donate directly there, whether it's a financial donation or you can look at our needs list. You can even find drop-off locations. You can drop it off at some of the barns that we have around the city, or come right down to Wheeler Mission, drop it off right there. But we need this community's support. So greatest thing about Indianapolis is it is a generous community.
Yes.
It is a community that steps up when there's a need. And there's 1,700 homeless individuals in our community. That number has risen 5% just over the last year. Wheeler Mission is the main place for those individuals to go, has been since 1893, over 130 years. And so support that ministry so that those doors can be open, making sure that every man, woman, and child that needs to come inside can come inside and not only get warm, but get nutritious meals, food, shelter, and care. And so beyond that, we take them through a whole journey of program to make sure that they come out our back door different people. But the first things first, right? Get them fed and get them warm and get them safe.
Since it's basketball season and we cover over 300 games a year on IndianaSRN, we challenge our basketball teams and our basketball programs to get involved. There are meals that need to be served. Tell our teams out there how they can help and serve meals.
Yeah, no better way to really open your eyes to the community's needs than to stand in front of people who are desperately in need and hand them a meal, hand them what they're asking for that day. So great group opportunity is to volunteer at Wheeler Mission. You can go to wheelervolunteer.org. You can sign up a group. It can take an hour and a half to come down and serve a lunch. You can get 12, 15 people involved in that, a dinner, come down either at our men's shelter or our women's shelter. It's a really cool experience for teams, not only to help in a way that you're making a difference, but to see the people that you're helping, right? To hand a meal to someone and smile and say hi to someone literally in their darkest moment, right? So
best assist they can ever make.
Oh yeah,
is to serve a meal.
That's a good point. It's a slam dunk.
It's a slam dunk,
yeah.
Exactly. For IndianaSRN, this is Keith Myers.
At Morales Group Staffing, we are all about building better futures. And during these times, we are working hard to put people to work. We are now hiring for hundreds of jobs with pay up to $17 an hour. Visit our website at moralesgroup.net or text JOBS, JOBS, to 317-472-7600 to apply now and get hired today.
We encourage you to follow us on Twitter at IndianaSRN. Find upcoming games, video highlights, and much more. Follow us now at IndianaSRN.
All you can eat? I think so.
Calling officials cheaters or corrupt.
Insulting referees.
Threatening officials.
Berating young umpires, learning the ropes.
Violent language in the stands.
Screaming at a referee in the parking lot. It's not a game.
We encourage you to follow us on Twitter at IndianaSRN. Find upcoming games, video highlights, and much more. Follow us now at IndianaSRN.
From warehousing to transportation and everything in between, Piper Logistics does it all. Centrally located, Piper Logistics has 2 warehouses in Indianapolis and a warehouse in Cincinnati, Ohio. Piper Logistics houses over 1 million square feet. Along with our transportation department, we can provide service to half the United States markets.
We encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, IndianaSRN. Hit the bell to get notifications for upcoming games and more. Watch as many games as you want, as many times as you want.
They say nice guys don't finish first. So maybe it's time to reconsider what it means to be first.
It's about being your best, but knowing you could be even better.
It's being present, but respectful of history.
You sure you want to make that move?
It's donating something more valuable than money.
It's believing in yourself and something bigger.
It's coming from different families, but treating each other like brothers.
It's not just being a man, it's being a Mason.
We are back here in Bloomington. It's Purdue on top of Indiana. 4-2 as Indiana Crew's able to get those 2 goals. We talked about that when they fell down 4-0, how important it would be to get that offense rolling again, and they seem like they did settle in a little bit more, and I think the comfort level appears to be there now.
Yeah, you saw what happened after Indiana was able to tally that first goal, and it became a little bit more aggressive. You could tell that they were playing with a sense of urgency that they didn't have early on in this game, and now you come out at halftime. If you're Indiana, you're playing with that sense of confidence, but you know Purdue is going to come back and try to punch you as hard as they can after giving up those 2 goals before halftime. So if you're Indiana, you cannot let your foot off the gas pedal right now, and if you're Purdue, you have to try to find a way to get the momentum that you had to begin this game back on your side. Your defense has lapsed here a couple of times, so it's going to start on the defensive end, then start to get back to what you were doing earlier in this game, where you were flipping sides of the field really quickly, and again, being very aggressive with your shots as well. That's where Purdue found success earlier today. It's where they'll find success here in the second half.
By the way, the turnover margin is only at 1 right now. Purdue's turned it over 10 times. IU with 9 turnovers in this one. That's something we talked about earlier, so it's only a +1 there for Indiana. Scoring-wise, Fisher, Davison, along with Meltzner and Stockdale all scoring for Purdue. And then on the other side, one of the harder shots that we have seen, in fact, at any level. We do a lot of high school and small college lacrosse, is the shot we saw a few moments ago that was scored for Indiana when their leading scorer, Sturm, hit his 25th of the year. And, I mean, he ripped that one.
He did. And that's one reason why he's leading this Indiana team in goals on the season.
All right, we're ready to go. Both teams making the adjustments at halftime. So let's see how this third period will now transpire. Both teams into new settling offense right here, and a good save once again, as that'll be the 7th shot so far for Purdue. They're able to get it back. Patrick Kenny, excellent job in goal, and where you see his reaction time on that last attempt. Yes.
He got off to a rough start in this game, Troy. He did, and but he's done a terrific job at recalibrating himself and moving forward from that rough start. He's really done a terrific job as of late.
Purdue misplaying that one. This is going to be interesting to see if they'll be able to get it before it goes out of play, but a very physical play. It's going to be a penalty against Indiana. Looks like they're going to get a push from behind there against Garrett Whipple. And so the Boilermakers will keep it. You know, you look at Purdue's numbers this year, they don't have any player really that makes you go, ooh, when it comes to what they do offensively, but their defense has been very impressive today.
And that's where they've made a lot of their ground. I mean, Indiana got off to a really slow start in this game, and part of the reason was because of the Purdue defense. They really set the tone in terms of physicality, especially the closer that Indiana tried to get towards the goal. And so, Purdue, if they want to have an opportunity to extend this lead, they've got to revert back to what they were doing earlier, being physical, setting the tonality of the game, and then also flipping the field fast offensively.
By the way, Liam Cassidy had the last shot on goal attempt, so Indiana back in possession, and that's going to be a nice save once again. The Boilermakers able to stop that shot. Good job once again in goal by Michael Janetta. So Indiana one and done this trip. As we'll head the other way once again, Boilermakers trying to get Up to a 5-2 lead here in the third, and a change on the line as well.
You know, these first 5 minutes or so, Troy, are going to be really telling about where this game goes. I mean, we're already 2 minutes into this half, but, you know, Indiana seems to have picked up, at least defensively, where they've left off. If Indiana can find a way within the next 5 minutes or so to find another goal, you know, this game's going to look completely different. But if Purdue can do the opposite, then obviously the opposite would be true.
Yeah, that was a shot there by Tobias Cars, a little bit over the head of the keeper Patrick Kenny, but a good look. Ninth shot already by Purdue here this afternoon, as they will keep possession in the attacking third. Let's see what they can do here with this offensive possession as they'll work at the X once again. Turning, shooting a little bit wide, but a good look from that left side. On the attempt, number 34 that time, Jared Meltzner, who we saw score earlier. You know, I was going to say, we see a lot of men's lacrosse. You think about the James Madisons and some of those teams. There's some players out here that are no doubt in my mind that could play with some of those teams, because you're seeing some really, really good lacrosse here today.
Yeah, no question about it. That's what a lot of people don't realize about club sports at universities. A lot of these guys could play collegiate athletics at the, you know, the D2 or D3 level, maybe even the D1 level in some cases. But you know, we were talking about before the game, sometimes the degree is placed above playing at that level, and so you get the opportunity to display your showcase your talent here, and it doesn't get as much cachet as you know, being an official Division I, Division II, Division III program. But the talent level is certainly there, and all you need to do is just sit back and watch a game for you to realize that.
Boy, Kenny made the save, and then he's outside the area where he needs to get back quickly in case of a turnover, but Purdue able to get their 10th shot of the day. And now Indiana back the other way. And you talk about Brent Balick as well. Of course, he went to Carmel, one of the top lacrosse high schools in the state. He is the all-time leading scorer here at Indiana University. They won back-to-back state championships back in the 2011 and 12 season. He was an All-American as well. There's no doubt in his second year he's certainly on the right track to make this a winning program every year.
Exactly. It's going to take time. I mean, every single coaching change takes time. He's only in his second year, but this Indiana team has done a lot of good stuff so far this year.
Well, that one wasn't too far off the mark that time, as Jack Jordan just a little bit wide to the right. Each team with 10 shots unofficially here as we play in the third period, as Indiana back on the attack once again.
You know, it's good to see Jack Jordan back out there again. He went out with an injury in that first half, and we were unsure about his status of whether he'd come back in this game, so it's good to see him back out there for the Cream and Crimson.
So now Indiana trying to get into that deficit. They trail it 4-2 here in the third, as we're at about the 10-minute mark now in the third period. Flag is down. Long-range attempt by Sturm. And looks like Indiana will be a man-up. Penalty will go against the Boilermakers. So Purdue will be a man down here. Here's the opportunity that the Hoosiers will need to take advantage of. By the way, Ben Wemple picked up the penalty.
Troy, you hit the nail on the head right there. Indiana has to take advantage of this number advantage for the Hoosiers. This would cut the deficit down to 1 potentially.
From the X. And that means Purdue will have to play a lot of zone right here during this penalty. And again, Boilermakers trying to kill this penalty off and make sure they don't give up a shorthanded goal. That one off the pipe and takes the long, long roll all the way to midfield.
That was a golden opportunity right there for this Indiana team, but you get the ball back, you've got another opportunity potentially.
Trey Zung was the one who just almost made this 4-3. That one is long range, and the goal, George Hahn. His second of the day.
6th of the season, and there was some fire behind that one. Back-to-back good opportunities by this Indiana offense. They were able to cash in. A little blink, you might miss it. 3 straight goals by this Indiana team. The Hoosiers are on a roll right now. And as we were talking about Indiana looking for answers earlier today, Purdue now looking for answers.
Yeah, they've gone really cold on offense, unable to get anything going since that last goal they had back in the second quarter. 9:41 remaining here in this third, and that was another one of those crews. It was a deep shot. It wasn't something we're talking about 8 meters. We're talking about beyond 12. Well, look at the scramble for the ball and eventually won by IU. So Indiana, after scoring, gets it back immediately.
And Purdue is playing on their heels right now. Not, literally in a literal sense, but figuratively. I mean, Indiana has been putting a lot of pressure on this Purdue team going back to about the midpoint of that second quarter. And ever since then, it's been all Hoosiers. Purdue, again, who had done a terrific job at setting the tone of this game, really has let Indiana have their way with them since that point.
So the shorthanded goal that time for the Hoosiers, and another rip off the pipe. Second time we have seen that. George Hahn went for the hat trick here today. Nice job playing through the physicality by Sturm, and another one. Sturm able to score again. He has 2 on the day, and all of a sudden we're tied at 4 apiece.
Well, Troy, what did I say just about 4 or 5 minutes ago? These next 4 to 5 minutes are going to be integral to the direction that this game takes. And all it took Indiana was about 4 shots that could have had an opportunity to go in. 2 of them did, and 2 of them going off the woodwork as well. So Indiana looks like a completely different team from the first quarter and a half that we've seen. And that looks like a team that's gone 6-4 so far this year.
Well, how many times do we talk about the adjustments that are made at halftime, and the adjustments have been made?
Oh, no question about it. Purdue's got to make some adjustments now.
So now it'll be the Boilermakers with the face-off win. When you love that long stick defender, able to cause a lot of havoc right there is Zach Stouffer. He's a long stick midi who can defend extremely well, and so now the Boilermakers will settle in here. Let's see what they can put together on offense.
And now we're seeing Purdue slow down a little bit, which is a little bit uncharacteristic from what we've seen from this Boilermaker team so far. A little bit of jawing going back and forth here, too, as well.
I love it. And things staying physical. They've been that way the entire afternoon. And that's a bad pass. And it's going to go out of play, turnover, and the fans here on the near side. We've got IU to our right, Purdue to our left, so it's kind of even.
And I'm loving what Garrett Whipple was doing. He wears number 5 for this Indiana team. He was the guy who was jawing to the Purdue side. Right there, you can tell that Indiana's playing with a lot of confidence right now, and it's showing here on the field.
One thing we should mention as we see a flag down on the opposite side is that this sport is starting to grow a lot in the Midwest. It's really big in the East, it's big in the West, but it's a sport that's just kind of really taking grip here in the Midwest.
Yeah, and there's a lot of fascination that comes with it too. People start to try, this is one of the first lacrosse games I've ever been to. And so I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving it. And so, word of mouth obviously helps. And then, people get involved. The more that they get involved, the more other people get involved. And, that growth can be exponential.
By the way, Sturm had a shot attempt there, went a little bit wide to the right. It would have been his 3rd of the day as he was looking at the hat trick. Hahn has 2, Sturm has 2 here for Indiana. So Indiana's going to be man up again as the Boilermakers will have to fight off another power play opportunity here for the Hoosiers.
And this would really be a big blow to this Purdue team. I mean, you scored the first 4 goals of the game, and you've already given up 4 straight to this Indiana team who's playing with all the momentum. They're at home, their last home game of the season.
Ooh, that one ripped it. It was deflected. Here from the left side is J.P. Amadin looking to give the Hoosiers the lead. They've been able to score 2 goals here in the third to tie this up. And again, the Boilermakers having to play zone here because they're man down. That penalty is going to come to an end here in just a couple of moments. We're down to the last 6:30 to go here in the third, and a low pass, and it goes out of bounds, and boy, how tough is that?
That's a rare miscue by this Indiana team, especially since the middle of the second quarter. You haven't seen the Hoosiers cough it up too many times since then. I mean, they've been sitting on 9 turnovers for the better half of the, maybe a quarter's length or so. You haven't seen too many of those recently for the Hoosiers.
Well, they're trying to force one here from the Boilermakers as it goes again across midfield, and ground ball is going to be not picked up yet. I almost said it was going to be, but then finally it's going to be J.P. Amadon able to pick it up. Boilermakers will get charged with a turnover there.
We got to give credit for Indiana getting it right back after coughing it up. I mean, it's amazing, Troy, looking back towards the first half. I mean, this has really been a tale of 2 completely separate games. You know, Purdue got off to that hot start. Indiana has been hot ever since. Well, this should be a fun finish.
Liam Danner winds up and the save, and he had a really good look from the left side. And you could kind of tell he was going to shoot it no matter what.
Yeah, he had his eyes on the target the entire way. He telegraphed it pretty good, though. That gave a lot of time for Purdue's goalie and Michael Janetta to be ready for it. He didn't get the cleanest look at it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So the Boilermakers back on offense once again, able to survive. Indiana man up on that last possession before that shot, so they got that turnover they needed from Indiana. So now they'll try to take the 5-4 lead, and we're down to the last 5 minutes to go in the third. Boy, the double team stick check near side, and the ball squirts loose. Boy, one thing about it, we kind of let you watch this and just how physical it is, and we got a penalty against the Hoosiers. That's going to be a push. You hear the fans as they got Owen Beagle on the penalty, but you hear the fans getting all excited. When you're field level, you really get a good sound of what's going on. Oh, great save once again off the shot that time by Tobias Cars.
You know, you mentioned it, though, Troy. I mean, we're here at field level right now. We're right at midfield, and so we're maybe about 20 feet away from the action, and you can really tell just how physical it is. I mean, you can definitely see it on the camera, but our perspective, you can really get a feel for it. You can hear the sticks hitting each other. You can hear the grunts and everything that's going on, and so that's one thing that makes the sport very unique, though. There's no lack of physicality, that's for sure.
I always tell Keith Myers I want to see him get in goal someday and everybody take a shot at him and see how he does.
I'll sign that petition with you.
I was going to ask you next, would you like to take a shot at it?
Yeah, you always got to try something. I might not last very long there, but I'll give it a shot. Why not?
Might end up with a lot of welts on the back of your leg, that's for sure, or the front of your thigh.
I'd like to think I'm tough. I don't know if I'm that tough. I guess we'll find out pretty quickly.
Boy, the Boilermakers turned it over, an errant pass, so we have them now for 13 turnovers here this afternoon in Indiana. Back on offense.
That's been one thing that we can point to as Indiana coughs it up right there. And again, another rare turnover. Indiana only 2 turnovers in the half. Purdue has turned it over 4 times already compared to Indiana's 2. So that's been part of the difference here in the second half.
Boy, and 2 in a row now for Purdue. Indiana just has over 3 minutes remaining as Sturham wanted a flag right there. No whistle. They thought that the Boilermakers had gotten across the restricted line, but no flag. There's only 2 officials working this today, so that would have been hard for him to see it.
No question about it, especially whenever he's looking towards where the action is going. I mean, it can be really hard, like you said, especially for a 2-man crew and all the moving parts, to be able to catch that.
Jack Jordan trying to dodge the defender, got the pick out front. Jordan looked for an opening, and a good save once again. IU's going to keep it. Attack one more time. Flag down. That may have been off the post as well. And the official calls the penalty right here, and that's going to go against the Boilermakers. Looked like they got number 20, which was Robert Shank. And so they are kind of shooting themselves in the foot with a lot of penalties lately, and another man up here for IU.
Yeah, and Indiana's been able to take advantage of those situations every time that they presented themselves. And so, like you said, Purdue not doing themselves any favors defensively. You got to try to lock in, though. You got to have a lot of communication whenever you go zone right here. You got to keep tabs on all of the offensive threats that Indiana has because there are a lot of them.
Man up IU. By the way, it wasn't Robert Shank number 20. It was actually Grant Moffitt, number 77, who picked up the penalty. So another power play opportunity for Indiana. Winding and firing, and that's going to be another save. That one was deep once again by George Hahn. He really wants that hat trick.
He really does, and Purdue got very lucky right there. It was a great save and nice tap from behind.
Yeah, that stick check loosens the ball. And was he able? Yeah, he picked it up. Speaking of J.P. Amadon at midfield before he crossed the midfield line, but it got a push from behind. Still man up here for Indiana.
Yeah, Purdue got lucky on that last shot, too. Their zone broke down at the top. There wasn't any communication and left a wide open shot from the top. And Purdue lucky that they were able to get the save, but they got to try to do it again here.
You know what's more amazing, Cruz, is I can actually see that clock from here. I know it's over there. You've got great eyesight, I know, but it's under 2 minutes now.
Well, according to my optometrist, I do have good vision. So I guess I'm proving that today.
Yes, you are. Great save there. George Hahn again, straight away in a deep attempt. So now the Boilermakers back the other way. They have really not been the same offensive team that we saw in the first half.
No, they came out very sharp over the course of the first quarter and a half or so, but they have really lagged and lacked also in physicality and control of this game ever since then. And so, you know, for the Boilermakers, they're going to have to focus on regaining control of this game like they had early on. Again, this game's not over, obviously. Tie game, so anything can happen, but Purdue's got to try to establish themselves here again.
By the way, we're back to even strength now as the Boilermakers try to take the lead. Another great save. And now IU in transition. They have numbers right here. The dodge and the shot just wide to the left. Great attempt by Alex Crone, and you could hear the fans moaning. They thought they had the go-ahead goal right there.
I mean, that's about as close as it gets right there. It was a terrific run. Great job to stop on a dime and reverse pivot and then try to throw it, but, you know, just a little bit off target. Again, that's about as good a look, though, as you can ask for if you're Indiana.
Yeah, that's one of the really few unsettled attempts we have seen here where Indiana really got in a nice job in the fast break. Heading the other way. We're under 30 seconds remaining. And the low shot goes just wide to the right. And that might have been an opportunity when you look at Sturm that he kind of held his hands up over his head. He knew he missed it.
Yeah, it was a little bit off, but it gives Indiana an opportunity going that quick to potentially get one back here.
Indiana still has an opportunity. We're down to 10 seconds left. Work quick. Sturm straight away. Low shot he went. Sidearm on that one, and it's just off the mark. And we're down to 2 seconds now, 1 second, and that's going to do it for the third period of play. Indiana battling back. Hahn and Sturm both goals. We head to the final period of play. We're tied at 4.
Every person has a story waiting to be told. Mr. Jack comes in every Monday.
Yeah, that's right.
One day I noticed his hat said he was a Korean War veteran. I asked him if he'd ever been to the Korean War Memorial.
No, I never had a chance to go.
That was the day I knew we had to do whatever it took to get him there.
Manny made it happen. I got to go to Washington, D.C. to all the memorials. The World War II Memorial, Naval Memorial, Korean War Memorial. Took all kind of pictures and everything, and it was a good trip, too.
I'm glad that I could be a part of Mr. Jack's story.
We encourage you to follow us on Twitter at IndianaSRN. Find upcoming games, video highlights, and much more. Follow us now at IndianaSRN. We encourage you to follow us on Twitter at IndianaSRN. Find upcoming games, video highlights, and much more. Follow us now at IndianaSRN.
We are back in beautiful Bloomington. It was a nice drive down from Indianapolis. I know you were here at school at IU, and for all of those that are thinking about coming to IU, why not? Great school, right?
Oh, no question about it. I mean, you know, academics is obviously a big thing that people look at, and the numbers speak for themselves. I mean, you look at the Kelly School. I'm in the media school, so I'll vouch for the IU media school, as is Charlie Hurris, who is behind us working the camera today. Terrific place. Beautiful campus, too.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the facility we're at right now for Club Lacrosse, the Sembauer Complex, and this used to be where the old baseball field was at. Sembauer Field used to be on this very plot of land right here.
Oh.
Now the baseball team has moved over right behind the dorms that you can see behind the or behind the Purdue bench, I should say, behind Assembly Hall, which is behind that, to Bart Kaufman Field, a wonderful complex over there as well. But they've done a terrific job at flipping this the Sembauer complex into the rec fields that you see in front of you, and the facilities are top-notch, and the food isn't bad either. I can get behind the food as well.
There you go. We may get behind your food as well when we're done. We'll kind of wait and see. But, hey, fourth quarter, 15 minutes. That was a complete turn there for Indiana on both sides, and Purdue very rarely got some good shots, and you got to give Indiana a lot of credit the way they played in the third.
Oh, yeah, no question about it. And we talked about it throughout the third quarter. It's been a tale of two games. The first quarter and a half was all Purdue. They controlled the tempo. They controlled the toughness. And that's why they got off to that 4-goal lead. But since then, Indiana's rattled off 4 goals because they've controlled the tempo, they've controlled the toughness, and the tone of this game. And so whichever team is able to get off to a hot start here in the fourth quarter, I think we're going to find out in the first 5 minutes whether this is going to be Indiana's ball game to win or Purdue's ball game to win. I'm very curious to see if Purdue comes out with the sense of urgency they had to begin this game, because they haven't had it since.
Yeah, okay, so the face-off will be won by the Hoosiers right here. So once again, the face-off has been big. Coach talked about that as well. We have a change in the line, and Indiana goes on the attack offensively. By the way, I think Cruz ought to be our most valuable player, carrying, 19 credit hours, and you're still
That's
here.
correct.
The thing that I was impressed most about is you had all your notes from class here where you're doing this and that at the same time. That's impressive.
I've gotten good at multitasking, Troy. I've gotten very good at it.
You're going to have to be at 19 credit hours.
That's something they don't teach you, is time management, and I've definitely had a fun time learning that.
And then, of course, we're putting you back to work tomorrow, too. So
hey, I'm all for it. I'm all
go.
for it. It's all part of the experience.
There you go. Jack Jordan with the attempt. He took a shot, and there's the late flag against the Boilermakers, and there's another one. I think that's going to be an unsportsmanlike, and it may end up costing the Boilermakers a player, as Owen Constant may have said a magical word right there, because that flag came out quickly.
It did. The first flag came out, and then as he was running back the other way, that second flag, like you said, made an immediate appearance out of the pocket of our referee. And so, Purdue's got to try to keep this thing together at this point. And obviously, it's going to be frustrating with the way that the last 2 quarters or so have gone, but this game is not over by any stretch. I mean, you still got an entire quarter essentially to play in a tie ball game. All you've got to do is outscore Indiana to the finish line, and it's going to be hard to do that whenever you're playing a man down at this point.
One thing about it, we've seen, I think, 4 or 5 possessions now where the Boilermakers have played a man down, and you can't keep doing that and expect to win.
No, because you're giving Indiana more opportunities and more favorable opportunities at that to try to score. I mean, Purdue's zone has not done a very good job against this Indiana attack whenever they don't have the numbers on their side. And so you want to maximize the amount of defenders you have so you can maximize the coverage you have, because this Indiana team, if they get an opportunity like we've seen, they're going to rip shots. They are going to rip shots, and they have the skill and ability to put those shots in.
By the way, you should mention the first penalty was against Indiana. The second penalty went against Purdue, but that cost them a man. So Purdue will play a man down here. An errant pass once again. It may cost them. There's another turnover.
Now they've really struggled taking care of the ball today. Now, what is that, 15 turnovers on the day for Purdue?
Well, Indiana's in a giving mood right there because they gave it right back.
And Purdue's not done a terrific job of taking care of the ball in terms of the second half, though. They went into halftime with only 9 turnovers. They've turned it over 6 times since then. Indiana has turned it over just twice, I believe, since halftime. And so the Hoosiers definitely doing a better job of taking care of the ball as opposed to Purdue. Part of the reason why Indiana's rattled off 4 straight.
It seems like it's been, and it has been, in terms of time that the Boilermakers have been able to put a goal on the board. It just seems like getting the rubber on cage here has just been really tough for them lately.
It has been. And again, part of the reason goes back to Indiana's physicality defensively. Again, that's part of the reason why Purdue got off to a good start. They were very physical to begin this game, but Indiana has really countered that very well over the last 2 quarters or so. And that's a good example of it right there from Garrett Whipple.
even strength here. As the penalty, just a 1-minute penalty, is over. Boilermakers on the attack, and another great save once again. Tell you what, as that penalty flag is way back close to midfield. But Patrick Kenny, great reaction in goal once again, and this is going to go against Indiana. We haven't seen Indiana pick up a penalty if it is Whipple heading to the penalty box.
Yeah, it's an opportunity now for Purdue. You know, you just mentioned they went back to even strength. Now Purdue has the advantage in terms of the numbers. Purdue has to be able to make this count right here.
Oh, and Kenny, another save. Deep shot there by Jeb Buffington, who had a really good look pretty much straight away. But now Indiana going unsettled here, but they're going to have him reset it back where the goalie is Kenny. Kenny's like, wait a minute. we had an unsettled opportunity right there.
I'll tell you what, Troy, one of the reasons why Indiana has been so successful over the last third of this game has been because of Patrick Kenny in that goal. He has done a terrific job after that slow start of his reaction time and his location of his stick, being able to absorb those shots, the limited amount of shots that Purdue has found over the course of that time, but there have been some lasers that he's faced, and he's been ready each and every time.
You know, Barton, we saw him come. He's a long stick defender out of Denver. We talked about him early. He came all the way down this way. Even though he had his stick check, he didn't give up on it, did a return stick check, and they kept it. Excellent job by Barton. You know, one thing about it is you want stick on stick as much as you can because you're going to stop any shot attempt or at least change the trajectory of where that ball's going to go so that you see how important that is. There's a shot that's going to be stopped once again. That was Sturm again on the shot. So now Purdue back the other way. 16 shots unofficially now for Indiana. Here as we're closing in on 11 minutes and we're still tied at 4. You know, one thing about the nice weather, everybody's got shorts on today. Well, you know, but
thanks for rubbing it in.
Sure, anytime. But it's a beautiful day. A little bit of a light wind, but a perfect day for all the fans to be here today to watch this matchup. That's going to be wide. You could kind of tell from the angle there by Tobias Cars that he was going to be a little bit to the right.
Yeah, he was going across his body, going over his left shoulder. I mean, naturally, that's going to pull off to the right. So whenever you're going and running to the left, too, it just makes that angle that much more difficult. But looks like Purdue's going to get another stab at this one.
Yeah, from the X and coming out, and I think that went, and it did. It's going to be a goal. They almost thought it was going to be behind the goal as Nick Favero able to give the Boilermakers the lead. And, you know, sometimes you got to hesitate where we are because I thought that might have been hit on the right side outside the netting.
And that's a massive goal for this Purdue team. I mean, they have been laboring to score over the course of the last two and a half quarters roughly. And so, you know, for Purdue, that gives you a little bit of a jolt, though. It gives you a little bit of a jolt, and it's going to allow you to have a little bit more confidence. And, you know, we saw this after Indiana was able to break that scoring drought that they were in to begin this game, how much urgency and how much energy they had back on their side. We'll see if that carries over to Purdue this time around.
So that's their first goal since the second period, and kind of feel if your Boilermakers a sigh of relief right there. They're going to get their offense going as Indiana turns it over. Have them for 13 turnovers now as Purdue back on the attack once again. Now, one thing about it here with the 80-second shot clock, I don't know if you're going to try to run it down the whole 80, but I think if you're the Boilermakers right now, you want to use as much as you can.
Oh, I would say so. I mean, you want to control, the tempo. Not so much the toughness in this scenario, although that is something that's important, but the tempo.
Great save on the shot attempt by Favero, looking for 2 in a row, but a high pass and another turnover, 2 in a row for Indiana. Flag is down. This should go against the Boilermakers that they turned it over as well. The two officials, looks like they may get together. At least they'll communicate what the penalty is. You know, this is a tough sport to do when you're thinking working with two officials. Generally, it is 3. And we're talking about a lot of real estate to cover here with two guys.
Yeah, a lot of real estate and a lot of players to cover, too. I mean, I'm a big basketball guy. You're a big basketball guy. You only have 10 total players with 3 officials, and so it's in a lot smaller area to cover. This is a much larger playing surface. There's only 2 officials, and there's 10 players on each team that you have to worry about. So twice the amount of players and a lot more real estate and only a third of the manpower, or only 2/3 of the manpower. So, you got to give these officials credit, though. They've been on top of things as much as they can.
So now the Boilermakers will be man up. I'm glad you didn't bring up my coaching career.
We can still talk about it.
We don't want to talk
like.
about that. Low shot, just wide to the right. We don't want to talk about that at all. Liam Cassidy on the shot attempt. So I decided to be smart about it and get into officiating now. So, I've been doing that for the last few years. That's not very smart either, by the way. Boilermakers will hold on to it as we are coming up on 9 minutes. And, what a save again. The keeper is not a really big fellow when you talk about Kenny, but he's got great reaction time. And then they score. Excellent job once again. That's going to be Davison getting his second of the day, and 2 unanswered goals now by the Boilermakers.
Well, we were just talking about it. We were interested to see if Purdue was going to come back with the urgency that we saw Indiana with when they broke their scoring drought earlier, and that's exactly what's happened. Back-to-back unanswered goals by this Purdue team. And that's how quickly a game like this can change. I mean, the momentum has been a big player in this game. Swung back to Indiana after it was with Purdue to start the game. Now it swung back to Purdue. And now Indiana's got to retain that back. And only, I believe, about 9 minutes left to go.
Well, I know you're not quite out of school yet. Once you get to your, 40th year, you're going to see a lot of this, by the way. The whole momentum thing changing a lot. We call it old man momentum. You'll call it young man, but I'm calling it old man. So how about the Boilermakers coming back now? Time will start thinking about that 5-minute mark, how critical it's going to be from a time of possession standpoint. And that was one of the areas that Coach talked about earlier, is they got to control possessions.
And they haven't done that over the course of the last 2 or 3 minutes or so. Purdue has had their way not only offensively but defensively as well. Indiana's copped it up a couple of times, and Indiana can ill afford to do that.
Barton, that's a great save again. Barton, I was watching him. He's such a big defender that you can't get around him.
Well, he came over and talked to us earlier today. He's probably a good solid 6'1", 6'2", and I'm not going to guess the weight, but probably pushing 190 pounds. He's a big guy. He's a big guy. He's built, too. It's muscle.
It's not, what Keith Myers carries around. It's actually muscle. So you got to remember that if you know Keith Myers. Nice pass to the inside, and the shot and the goal. Grant Gilbert. Excellent shot. Might have been the prettiest shot we've seen today.
Very efficient by Indiana getting back the other way. This is what we saw Purdue do at the beginning of the game. Get back the other direction in a hurry. It was a great find right in front of the net. And now it's back to a 1-goal game. If you're Indiana, you've got to keep your foot on the gas pedal, though, because you've battled all your way back. You have yet to lead today. But if Indiana can find a way to score another goal here, maybe say in the next 1 to 2 minutes, Troy, I'm really excited to see how this game turns out.
By the way, Grant Gilbert out of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. As we mentioned before, the schools that play out in the eastern part of the country, they know their lacrosse. And it will be Purdue back on the attack after the penalty called against Indiana. So now we're under the 8-minute mark. Is that right?
Yes.
See, you thought you could see better than me, huh? Anytime I call something out, I look to Cruz first. Was that right? That's what you do when you get to be old. The Boilermakers trying to answer here at the X. And they work it around once again. And, you try to dodge that defender. If you get a pick play and get away with it, of course, that's big, and try to open somebody up. And it's not always an easy thing to do.
Well, it doesn't seem like anything in this sport is easy to do.
Yeah, you think
that's what I picked up on pretty quickly.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier how far they got to travel and how quickly they can do it. I mean, you're always on the move.
I'm sure the conditioning of both of these teams has to be top-notch as well, and that's one thing that a lot of people don't take into account.
Sidearm shot and the score again, and it's going to be Davison getting another one from the sidearm, and a great shot. He's got 2 in a row on the hat trick today for the Boilermakers.
How terrific has this guy been? I mean, Davison has really taken control of this game, especially scoring the last 2 goals for this Purdue team. Came into this day with 6 goals on the season. He has recorded half of that in this game today. Terrific.
Well, that's a deep shot there by Davison, and now 3 goals in the quarter after being shut out in the third, and now Indiana finds themselves down by 2, and we're starting again to get in that critical areas. We're under the 7-minute mark in this one here this afternoon. Again, Miami leading the division. They are 6-0 going into today's action. Indiana trying to go to 7-4. Purdue trying to win their 4th. Depending on what happens with Michigan State today, they possibly could move to within a game of the Spartans. Of course, Michigan State had just knocked off the Boilermakers 11-10 in their last contest. Face-off won again here by the Boilermakers, and here's where we start to kind of think a little bit again of the clock. I always talk about 6 minutes remaining. How many possessions do you have, especially when you figure if you can run 75 seconds off at a time, you don't have a whole lot left.
Yeah, if you're Purdue, you don't have to be very aggressive in terms of your shots right here. And that one might have been a little bit ill-advised. I'm not sure exactly where the shot clock was at that point in time, but you know, you want to try to milk as much of this clock as you can. You have a 2-goal lead at 7-5 if you're Purdue. Just take as much clock as you can. Try to find a quality look. If you can't find one, lock in defensively. And once you get that ball back, do it all over again.
Boy, and make sure that you don't let Davison try it again, because he's got the hot hand. A good save as he tried another deep shot. And Purdue's going to keep it.
That was a really nice scoop up there by Davison, too. That ball was coming at him fast. A nice flick of the wrist to control the ball. I'm surprised, Troy, that he went that quickly, though. I understand he's hot, but if you're Purdue, try to take as much of this clock down as you can, because the clock right now is your friend.
By the way, Patrick Kenny had to look between a lot of bodies to make the save on that one. That's always tough for a keeper. And you got so many different players in front of you. The turn, the shot, and the score, and the Boilermakers add another one on the board. This time it'll be Jared Meltzner once again, and he now has scored his 2nd of the day, and 3 unanswered now by the Boilermakers.
Yeah, that lead's starting to grow back up there for Purdue, and it's amazing. You know, Troy, we were talking about the tale of 2 games. It's now been a tale of 3 games. Purdue got off to that 4-0 start. Indiana countered with 4 of their own, and since then Purdue has outscored Indiana 4-1 up to this point in the game. Unbelievable.
We'll take a timeout as the Boilermakers lead it by 3.
Myers, Vice President of IndianaSRN. Thanks for joining us. Do you know IndianaSRN broadcasts 350 games a year? All sorts of sports? Yeah, we do. Hard to believe, isn't it? IndianaSRN loves to put student athletes first on our website. If you're a business out there, we probably could help you too. Contact us at coach@indianasrn.org. Grandma from out of state thanks you. Mom and Dad who can't get to the game thanks you as well. In fact, our athletes watch the games over and over again. Our military has enjoyed the games as well. So sit back and enjoy the game. It's IndianaSRN.
We're back here in Bloomington as Indiana now trailing it by 3. We had seen the Boilermakers get that early lead, IU fighting back the way they did. And, you know, when you play sports, and we've all played enough of it to know that sometimes you feel when you fight back, you use so much energy to get back into the game that sometimes you kind of let down a little bit, and I think that's what IU did right there.
I think so, and, you know, Purdue, they were backtracking, you know, not, you know, in the literal sense, but in the figurative sense, because Indiana kept attacking them and Purdue kept having to stand strong against them. But like you said, Indiana used so much energy in such a long period of time to try to get back into this one. And, you know, it's a question of how much more they have left to give, because now you've allowed Purdue to extend this lead back, and now you've got to expend more energy to try to get yourself back into this game again, now with even less time.
Well, the face-off won by the Boilermakers, though ball squirts loose, and both teams fighting for it. It's a 50-50 opportunity here, and who's going to get it? Another stick check, and the Boilermakers are going to come up with it, so that's big right there. Indiana's going to have to be very aggressive here in the last 5 minutes.
And you got to try to get the ball back. It's going to start on the defensive end, but Purdue's offense has been terrific over the last 5 minutes, maybe for the exception of that.
Had a way to jinx them right there. That'll be our count now, 16 turnovers by Purdue. You know, you generally see that type of a turnover in lacrosse, whether it's men or women, when you're trying to make that pass 45, 50 yards, and generally it's not a good idea.
No, it's a small target to try to get, and on top of that, it doesn't really matter how skilled these guys are with the stick. That's obviously going to be a hard target to try to get your stick on. Running the other direction, you've got defenders to worry about, you're running, and so just a very low percentage play to make, not for either team, and so you want to, obviously use the path of least resistance, but also make it efficient.
So now Indiana down by 3, and of course when you're behind, that clock seems to go so fast. When you're ahead, it doesn't go fast enough. And generally in my case, when I was coaching, the clock was always going fast. Shot attempt there is stopped as the Hoosiers unsuccessful in trying to get one of those back by Sturm, and the penalty against Indiana, it'll give it back to the Hoosiers. I should say again, penalty against Purdue, as that's going to be a pipe shot, but they're able to get it back once again.
Indiana's had 3 or 4 of those so far today. A lot of them came in the third quarter, and it came in that run where they scored back-to-back goals, but think about the amount of opportunities they've left out there just a couple inches from going into the net.
Now, if you're the Boilermakers, keep everybody in front of you and don't get out of position here, as that's going to be a wide shot once again. As Sturm unable to get that one after that last one hit the pipe. They'll go at the X and try to find something inside, and another great save. And it's been a good fourth quarter here for Janetta as well.
Yeah, Purdue's defense has really solidified itself here in this fourth quarter. And again, that's what got Purdue off to this hot start. And they've really reverted back to what they did at the beginning of this game. And Indiana, again, going to have to make up a lot of ground in very little time.
Yeah, the Cruzette clock is now at 3. Boilermakers could get 2 possessions and run that thing down under the 1 minute mark, and the next thing you know, you're in trouble.
You've got enough cushion to where you can afford to do that too. You really don't have to score if you're the Boilermakers, so just move the ball around, try to take off as much of that clock as you can. If Indiana gets it and goes back the other way, just stay strong defensively, but the clock is definitely an ally of Purdue right now.
And we'll keep an eye on it as well. As you know right now, that's what the Boilermakers will do, is just run a lot of clock. They're leading it by 3 here in the fourth. Of course, they'll keep an eye on that shot clock as well, because they want to make sure at least to get an attempt here, maybe squeeze one more out.
It's down to 5.
They're going to get a look right here if they can work to the inside, just off the mark there by Tobias Kars. But fortunately, maybe they're going to be able to get that one, but they did not, so it'll be Indiana back on the attack. And they're going to have to work quickly.
Coast to coast, Getty.
So empty net right at the moment for Indiana, because they're going to need to work quick. Under 2. Boy, and the Boilermakers right now, they know they're going to keep everybody to the inside and make it a tough shot, and another nice save. Once again, it'll be Janetta. Read that one all the way in.
You're trying to go up to that upper sixth of that goal. That was going to be a very tight window to try to fit it in, and he almost did, but give a lot of credit to Janetta right there. Read it perfectly, like you said. Now Purdue's in the driver's seat.
Sturm was looking for the hat trick right there, but more importantly, just trying to get a goal on the board, and it looks like we have a timeout. Boilermakers lead this one by 3 here in the fourth.
At Morales Group Staffing, we are all about building better futures. And during these times, we are working hard to put people to work. We are now hiring for hundreds of jobs with pay up to $17 an hour. Visit our website at moralesgroup.net or text JOBS, JOBS, to 317-472-7600 to apply now and get hired today.
We encourage you to follow us on Twitter at IndianaSRN. Find upcoming games, video highlights, and much more. Follow us now at IndianaSRN.
Well, this game at one time was tied at 5, but the Boilermakers, thanks to a great effort in this, I would say, the last 7 minutes or so, able to score 3 unanswered goals, and this would be a big road win here for Purdue.
Oh, no question about it. I mean, this, the Purdue record obviously doesn't show how good that they've played today. 3-6 on the season. Indiana 6-4. This is an upset. There's no getting around it. You go on the road to Indiana, a team that's playing their last home game on the season, and you put up this performance. Now, obviously, the middle of the game may be something that Purdue wants to forget about, but the beginning of this game and the way, most importantly, that they have finished this game, that's something that they can carry forward here for the rest of the season. They've played terrific during those time periods.
No doubt about that, as they're about ready to pull off a win for Brent Balick. I know that, say that they're going back to the drawing board, but I think bottom line is they know, like you said, they can't get behind early in the contest the way they did today, and then again try to battle back as much as they did. But there's a lot of good pieces to this IU team.
Oh yeah, and you use the word learning experience. It sounds like a cliche, but every game is a learning experience. If we're being honest, and there are some takeaways that Indiana's going to have going forward that they can utilize and use to their advantage. And as long as you put that knowledge to use, you don't lose in vain.
By the way, we want to give credit to our cameraman who is up on the lift. I wish he was a little higher up there, though. I was a little disappointed he wasn't about 35 up, right?
I don't know if Charlie Harris can handle those heights. I guess we'll have to see next time.
I think he's only up by 10 right now. That's kind of disappointing. So next time we'll get him up higher, that's for sure.
Well, the day's not over.
That's
still put him up there.
Yeah, I'll go up there next time. Might be a better broadcast if I'm up there, right? Under 30 seconds. As the Boilermakers looking to run it out right here. Good save once again. The left-hand shot there by Davison. Looking to add one more on the day as the hat trick already for the Boilermakers. And with under 20 to go, it's pretty much settled at this stage. And that ball will be picked up, a pass that went a little errant and took that high bounce. Of course, the turf makes it bounce a little bit higher as Purdue will just bring it across, and it's over. So as we finish here today, you can see the Boilermakers very happy with this road win here this afternoon. And it was entertaining from a standpoint that we went back and forth, and then Purdue just able to finish it strong at the end.
Yeah, you got to give this Purdue team a lot of credit, especially things were looking bleak towards the middle third of that game. Indiana had everything going for them, and Purdue got off to that hot start, that quick 4-0 start. The Hoosiers countered with 4 of their own, but Purdue really took control, outscoring Indiana 4-1 over that final quarter. I mean, unbelievable performance by this Purdue team. Despite the turnover margin that they ended up losing, they still found a way to pull one out.
And Andrew Davison, of course, the hat trick today for the Boilermakers. On the other side, Sturm had 2 goals for Indiana. Hahn had a couple of goals as well. So a good way to finish out, at least from that standpoint, their home portion of the schedule. And now they look at which the season beginning to wind down. These teams will go back at it and finish out their season very strong. So we'll see how this turns out the rest of the way. All right, that's going to do it for us here, the Upper Midwest Lacrosse Conference, as, again, the Boilermakers win it here this afternoon by a final of 8-5. Want to thank the entire crew, doing a great job, as always, here today. For Mr. Cruz himself, he's going to be working again tomorrow during his 18 credit hours. He's got to finish in as well, so he'll be doing some notes tomorrow as well. Thanks for being with us here this afternoon as the Boilermakers pick up the win. They win at 8-5. This has been Indiana Lacrosse here on Indiana SRN.